I never expected to be fighting over my own house with my own father. But here we are. For context, I, 32M, bought my first home last year. It wasn't a mansion or anything, but it was mine. A cozy little 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. I worked hard for years, saving every penny while watching my older sister, Emily, 35F, get handed everything on a silver platter. Our parents always favored her, but I never thought it would come to this. A few weeks ago, my dad called and asked if he could drop by. I didn't think much of it until he showed up with Emily in tow, both looking unusually smug. We sat down in my living room, and after some small talk, my dad dropped the bombshell. Dad, so, your sister's been going through a really tough time lately, and we've been thinking you should give her your house? I actually laughed. Like, out loud. Me, what? Emily just sat there with her arms crossed, looking bored. Like this was already a done deal. Dad, she needs it more than you do. You don't have a family, you don't have kids. This house is too much for just one person. She's struggling right now, and it would be the right thing to do. Now, to clarify, Emily is not struggling. She's just irresponsible. Our parents gave her a house 5 years ago, a beautiful 3-bedroom place in a much nicer neighborhood than mine. But what did she do? She sold it within a year, blew through the money on business ventures, aka pyramid schemes and impulsive spending, and has been living off our parents ever since. And now they wanted me to clean up her mess. Again. Me, no, absolutely not. Dad's face turned red. Emily scoffed. Emily, ugh, I knew you'd be selfish about this. Me, selfish? I bought this house with my own money. I didn't get a free house handed to me and throw it away. Dad, watch your tone. She's your sister. You have a responsibility to help her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was their responsibility to enable her, and now that they were running out of ways to bail her out, they expected me to sacrifice everything I worked for? Then Dad pulled out his trump card. Dad, if you don't do this, don't expect to see a cent from me when I'm gone. I'll cut you out of my will. Oh no. Anyway. At this point, I was done playing nice. I stood up, walked to my office, and pulled out a neatly organized folder from my filing cabinet. When I came back, I dropped the paperwork on the table in front of them. Me, go ahead, cut me out. Because guess what? Emily's already taken her inheritance. Dad blinked. Emily went pale. Me, that house you gave her? The one she sold for cash? That was worth more than anything left in your estate. She's already gotten her share. I, on the other hand, have gotten nothing from you my entire life. So go ahead, write me out. But don't come knocking when you need help, because I won't be there. Silence. Dead silenced. Emily's jaw clenched. Dad's face went from red to ghost white. And then, Dad snapped, how dare you throw that in our faces? After everything we've done for you? I let out a bitter laugh. Everything they've done for me? That was rich. Really? Everything you've done? Because from where I'm standing, the only thing you've ever done is bend over backward for Emily while expecting me to just deal with it. Emily, finally shaking off the shock, slammed her hands on the table and practically screeched, that house was a gift. You can't put a price on family support. Then I told her, sure, but apparently you can put a price on mine. And it's exactly one house. Dad pointed a finger at me, voice low but furious. You ungrateful brat. You'd rather see your own sister homeless than help her out? Now, let's get one thing straight. Emily wasn't homeless. She had been living in our parents' guest house for free since she blew through the money from selling her house. She had no rent, no bills, and no responsibilities. Meanwhile, I had worked my ass off for everything I had. And now they wanted to rip it away from me because Emily didn't feel like being an adult. I shook my head. You know what? This conversation is over. I'm not giving her my house. And if you're going to cut me out of your will over this, go ahead. Because I don't need anything from you. I stood up, walked to the front door, and opened it. Now get out of my house. Dad's eyes widened like he couldn't believe I was actually kicking them out. You can't be serious. Dead serious. This is MY house. And I'm done with both of you. Emily got up in a huff, grabbing her designer handbag, probably bought with Dad's money, and stormed out first. Dad hesitated for a moment, as if expecting me to back down. But when he saw that I wasn't budging, He finally muttered something about me being a disappointment and followed Emily out the door. I shut it behind them and locked it. I wish I could say that was the end of it, that they saw reason and left me alone. But no, the real war was just beginning. Because a few days later, I found out that Dad wasn't just cutting me out of the will, he was trying to take my house. A few days passed, and I thought that was the end of it, that I had finally shut the door, literally and figuratively, on my father and Emily's entitlement. I was wronged. It started with a phone call from my realtor. "Hey, I just got a weird inquiry about your house. Someone claiming to be your father asked if the property title was in your name or still under family ownership." I nearly dropped my phone. Family ownership? What the hell was he talking about? I reassured my realtor that the house was 100% mine and hung up. But something felt off. Why would my dad, who had no financial stake in my home, be sniffing around like this? Then, that very night, I got a notification from my security cameras. Motion detected. Front door, and my stomach dropped. I pulled up the footage on my phone, and there they were, Emily and my dad, standing on my front porch. With a locksmith, I immediately turned on the microphone function and spoke through the camera. "Can I help you?" The locksmith literally jumped when he heard my voice, looking around in confusion. My dad, however, didn't even flinch. "We're just checking something, son. Don't make this difficult." Emily was smirking, arms crossed like she had already won. "Checking what, exactly?" I asked. The locksmith hesitated. They said they were the owners, that they lost their keys and needed the locks changed." Oh, hell no. I quickly grabbed my car keys and sped home. I was furious. If I hadn't gotten that notification, I don't even know what I would have come back to. Would they have moved in, changed the locks, thrown my stuff onto the street? When I pulled up, the locksmith was still standing there awkwardly, clearly realizing he'd been lied to. I said, "You don't live here, and you sure as hell don't own this house." The locksmith looked at me, then at my dad, then back at me. Locksmith then asked me, "Sir, do you have proof of ownership?" I pulled out my phone and opened my property deed. This is my name on the title. Not his. Not hers. Mine. The locksmith immediately stepped back and muttered an apology. Dad, however, wasn't backing down. He said, "You have no right to treat me like this. I raised you. I provided for you. And this is how you repay me?" I chuckled. "By stopping you from committing literal fraud?" "Yeah, I guess so." Emily groaned, clearly losing patience. "Dad, let's just call the cops. He can't just kick us out of our own house." I laughed, like, full-on bent over, wheezing laughter. "Your own house? You really believe that?" She shrugged. "Dad said it's still technically the family's." And there it was. Their real planned. I'm my father. This man who spent my whole life favoring Emily, handing her everything while giving me nothing, actually thought he could just will my house into existence as family property. At this point, I was done being polite. That I said, "All right, let's call the cops." Dad and Emily froze. That I laughed. "Oh, what's wrong? I thought you wanted to call them. You think they'll agree with you? That they'll just kick me out of my own home?" Dad's eyes darted toward his car, clearly debating whether he should just leave. "But Emily," she doubled down, "you can't prove this house wasn't meant for me. Dad said he always planned for me to have it." "Oh, that was cute." I pulled out my phone, tapped a few times, and pulled up the emails from my bank. "Oh, really?" "Because according to my mortgage records, I took out a loan. And according to my closing documents, I signed the deed. And according to this wire transfer, I made the down payment. Not you. Not Dad. Me." Emily's mouth snapped shut. I added, "So please, call the cops. I'd love for them to hear you try to explain how you're entitled to a house you have absolutely no legal connection to." Dad grabbed Emily's arm. "Let's go." Emily hesitated, but Dad yelled, "Now?" They stormed off, Emily seething, Dad muttering something under his breath. I stood there, arms crossed, watching them drive away. As their car disappeared down the street, I took a deep breath, trying to calm the rage boiling inside me. Then, I turned to the locksmith. He was already loading his tools into his truck, clearly eager to get the hell out of there. "Not so fast. Hey, We need to talk. He flinched but tried to play it cool. Look, man, I didn't know. You didn't know? That's your excuse? He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. They told me it was a family home and that they'd lost their keys. It happens all the time. People get locked out. I cut him off. And you didn't think to check? No ID? No proof of ownership? Just some random guy saying, yeah, I totally own this place, and you're ready to start drilling? He had the nerve to look annoyed. Look, I don't need this. I didn't even start working yet. Oh, hell no. You showed up at my house. You pulled out your tools. You were about 5 seconds away from breaking in. He held up his hands. I get it. Okay? I should have asked for ID first. I took a step closer. Damn right you should have. If I hadn't caught you, you would have changed my locks for 2 people who were about to illegally move into my house. He sighed loudly, like he was the one being inconvenienced. Fine. I'll be more careful next time. Are we done? I narrowed my eyes. Not even close. Give me your business card. That got his attention. Why? Because I want the name of the company that almost helped my dad commit fraud. His jaw tightened. Come on, man. I didn't know. I was just doing my job. And your job requires verifying ownership before drilling into someone's door, right? Silenced, I held out my hand. The card. Now. He let out a frustrated breath, yanked a card from his pocket, and slapped it into my palm. Thanks. Oh, and by the way, if I ever catch you trying to break into my house again, I won't just be having a conversation. I'll be calling the cops. He muttered something under his breath, climbed into his truck, and peeled out of my driveway. I looked down at the card. Time to make some phone calls. I walked back inside, still gripping the locksmith's business card. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but from sheer rage. Dad and Emily had actually tried to break into my house. Not just manipulate, not just guilt trip. Break in. I needed to make a few calls. First, I dialed the locksmith's company. A woman answered, sounding cheerful. Thanks for calling, company name. How can I help you? Yeah, I need to file a complaint. One of your guys just showed up at my house and was about 5 seconds from drilling my lock because 2 random people told him to. No verification, no proof of ownership, nothing. He was about to help them illegally break into my home. There was silence for a moment. Then, in a much more serious tone, she said, that definitely shouldn't have happened. Do you have the technician's name? I read off the name on the card. We take this very seriously. I'll escalate this to management immediately. Good. Because if I ever see one of your locksmiths doing something like this again, I won't be calling customer service. I'll be calling the police and my lawyer. She stammered out an apology, but I'd already hung up. Next, I needed to make a legal move. I called my lawyer. Yeah, I have one, because family drama like this teaches you to be prepared. After explaining what had just happened, he didn't sound the least bit surprised. Your father and sister tried to commit fraud. You need to file a police report. Even if you don't want them arrested, having a record of this will protect you in case they try something again. He was right. They weren't going to stop unless I made them stop. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the police station. I walked into the police station, still gripping the locksmith's business card like it was evidence in a murder case. My mind was racing. I didn't want to get law enforcement involved in family drama, but Dad and Emily had crossed a line. Approaching the front desk, I took a deep breath. I need to file a report. My father and sister just tried to break into my house. The officer at the desk raised an eyebrow. Do you have proof? I laid it all out. The locksmith's involvement, my dad and Emily's entitlement, how they had almost gotten inside. I even showed him the security footage from my phone, which clearly captured my dad standing by while the locksmith prepped his tools. The officer nodded. Yeah, that's definitely an unlawful entry attempt. You're the legal owner of the house, right? I pulled out my paperwork. My name's the only one on the deed. He studied it for a moment, then looked back at me. We can file this as an attempted unlawful entry. Since they didn't actually break in, it's not full-blown trespassing. But if they try this again, they're looking at serious charges. That was exactly what I needed. A paper trail. After signing the necessary forms, I walked out of the station feeling lighter, but I knew this wasn't over. Sure enough, my phone buzzed the second I got in my car. Dad, I let it go to voicemail. Seconds later, Emily's name popped up on the screen. I ignored her too. A minute later, a text from her came through. You called the police on Dad? What is wrong with you? I stared at my screen, disbelief morphing into amusement. Oh, this is going to be fun, I typed back. He tried to break into my house. Actions have consequences. Her response came instantly. Oh my God, you're so dramatic. You know Dad just wanted what was best for the family. Oh, I was done playing nice. No, Dad wanted what was best for you. He thought he could steal my house, and you let him. Guess what? Now there's a report filed. Try this again, and I'll press charges. A few dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, she sent. You'll regret this. I laughed. Oh, Emily, you have no idea. I started my car and headed home. It was time to prepare for the next round, because this fight wasn't over. I pulled into my driveway, still buzzing with adrenaline from the police station. As I stepped out of my car, I felt the weight of the moment. The ball was in my court now. I'd set everything in motion, and there was no going back. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Dad. I didn't even hesitate before opening it. He texted. I don't know what you're trying to pull here, but I'm not going to let you ruin your life over a misunderstanding. You'll regret this. I stared at the screen, feeling that familiar mix of anger and disbelief. How could he still act like I was the one in the wrong? He had no shame. I tapped out a quick response. It's not a misunderstanding, Dad. You tried to steal my house. I'm not going to let you get away with it. A few minutes passed, and then my phone buzzed again. Dad texted. You've crossed a line. You're going to regret this. Don't expect anything from me ever again. That was when I realized the real threat wasn't even the house or the police report. It was the will. That I hadn't thought about it until now. But Dad had always talked about how everything was supposed to go to Emily. And if I was being honest, I'd always suspected he might cut me out of it eventually. But now, it felt like a certainty. I couldn't let him have the last word. I called my lawyer. Hey, it's me again. Can we talk about my father's will? The lawyer was quick to respond. Sure. What's on your mind? Do you think there's a way to ensure that my share of the inheritance is protected? I'm worried about Dad making changes behind my back, especially with all the threats he's making. There was a pause on the line. We can look into that. You have a right to your inheritance, and if he's been making threats or pressuring you, it's possible to make sure those changes don't go through. But we'll need to take action fast, especially if he's already started manipulating Emily. I hung up, feeling a surge of determination. I wasn't going to let them win this. I was done being the victim in their twisted family game, so I walked back into my house. I couldn't help but notice how much my surroundings had started to feel like my personal fortress. I had built this place for me, and no one was going to take it away. But then, as I turned to lock the door behind me, I heard the unmistakable sound of a car engine approaching. I looked out the window. Dad's car, he was here. And I knew this confrontation was about to get a whole lot messy. I stood there, staring out the window at Dad's car creeping down the street. The engine cut off, and I could already picture him. The same smug look he always wore when he thought he was in control. Not this time. I took a deep breath and walked to the door, opening it just as Dad stepped onto the porch. His face was a mask of anger and resentment. He didn't even knock, just barged right in like he had a right to be here. Is this how you're going to play it? He spat, his voice dripping with venom. You're going to ruin your life over this? I didn't flinch. No, Dad. I'm just making sure you can't ruin mine anymore. His eyes narrowed. What the hell are you talking about? I stepped closer, putting a few inches of distance between us. You've already tried to steal my house, tried to break in with Emily's help. But that's not all. I called the cops, filed a report. I've got proof. You can't keep getting away with this crap, and you're sure as hell not going to get your hands on this house. His face paled. You're just being dramatic. I'm your father. I'm entitled to some help from my kids. You lost that entitlement the second you tried to screw me over. And don't think I haven't figured out your game. I leaned in, voice low. You're going to try and change your will, right? Cut me out and leave everything to Emily. But guess what? He blinked, eyes wide with a mix of fear and confusion. I've already had a lawyer look into it. You don't get to play that game anymore. I smiled, a cold, vindictive smile. If you try to make any changes to your will now, I'll contest it. I've got the paperwork, and I'll make sure the court knows exactly what you tried to do. His jaw clenched. You think you can just stop me? You're nothing without me. I shook my head. No, Dad. I'm something without you. I've built my own life, and I don't need you or your toxic control to survive. He stood there, fuming, but I could see the panic in his eyes now. The realization was hitting him that I wasn't the gullible child he could manipulate anymore. And if you think I'll let you walk away from this without consequences, you're wrong. I'm not going to call the cops again, but don't think I won't take further legal action. You've tried to steal from me, emotionally manipulate me, and now you're going to face the fallout. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. I hope you enjoy what's left of your life, because it won't be a pleasant one. You've burned too many bridges to come back from this. Dad stood there for a long moment, eyes shifting between anger and panic. Finally, he muttered something under his breath and turned to leave. But before he walked out the door, he shot one last look at me. You're going to regret this. I simply smiled back. I already feel better. The door slammed shut behind him, and as I locked it, I finally let out a long breath. It was over. The revenge, the sweetest revenge, wasn't in the dramatic confrontation or the threats. It was in the freedom to know I was no longer under his thumb. He tried to ruin my life. And now, I was making sure he never got the chance to do it again. And that's how I finally took control. How I made sure that, for the first time in my life, my father wouldn't get away with his entitled, manipulative behavior. The house was mine, the will was safe, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was truly free. What do you think, guys? Did I go too far with the revenge, or was it just a long overdue wake-up call for my dad and Emily? Would you have handled things differently? Let me know what you think. I'm curious to hear your take on this whole situation.